afternoon to one and all. And at the very beginning, I would like to wish all of you a healthy and prosperous days ahead of you all. Salutation to all the elders, and thank you so much for all our participants for joining with us for yet another session of The Wire. This is our 11th The Wire session. All the librarians, researchers, and everyone from the knowledge and research fraternity, thank you so much for joining us once again. I'm Dr. Shriparna Samanta, working as Manager Relationships, Academic and Corporate with with Team Balani Infotech. The Wire, which is webinar on international resources with experts, is a series of webinars which is initiated by our CEO and visionary, Mr. Kailash Balani. We at Balani Infotech are serving the knowledge and research fraternity with the resources of their need from many past decades. And as a service provider to this community, as our social, ethical, and moral duty towards the community, we have created this platform, The Wire. Over this platform, we call our different experts from different fields and try to provide the valuable information for a much more broader audience. So this will be our 11th The Wire session. Previous to this, we have conducted sessions on importance of archival content, library transition during this pandemic situation, and many other topics. So on behalf of Team Balani Infotech, I welcome you all for this very informative webinar on the topic strategies and tools to counter information overflow. Before starting the session, I would like to mention some of the ground rules. If anybody drops out of the session, then please join us back with the same link. We will be online till our session ends at the same link. We are live with our session over Facebook and YouTube. Complete recorded links for the session will be shared with the participants once we have completed the session in a day or two. After the talk, we will be open question and answer section via chat box where participants can ask their questions to our speakers. And the most exciting part of our today's session will be the quiz part. The link for the quiz will be shared to our team by our technical team once we are done with the question and answer with our panelist, keynote speaker, and our guest speaker. So, and we will be announcing the winners. We will be announcing three winners who all will be getting Amazon gift cards. And by tomorrow, we will be announcing our winners. E-certificates will be provided to the participants within 15 working days. And we will be able to provide you all the e-certificates once you attend the whole session and at the end when you will be giving your details. So on the basis of that details only, we will be able to provide you the e-certificates. So without much ado, I would start the session. Today we have with us very well-known Dr. Sangeeta Kaul ma'am, Director Delnet as our keynote speaker. We have our guest speaker, Dr. Parvez sir, University Librarian Maulana Azad National Urdu University, Hyderabad. For our panelist discussion today, we have with us Dr. Manish Mankan sir, Librarian DAICT Gandhinagar, Gujarat. Dr. Sanjay Kataria sir, University Librarian, Bennett University, Greater Noida. Miss Zabeen Isaac ma'am, Chief Librarian at Shere Kashmir. She was also supposed to join, but because of some of the family emergencies, she won't be joining us today. So we all know how difficult and informative the year 2020 was. The whole pandemic condition has increased the need of information for all of us like never before. We all were eager to know what's going on across the globe in terms of increasing cases, vaccines, travel restriction, precautionary measures, and so on. All this quest for information by all of us turned everything around us as information provider. And the major contributor was obviously our Google. But getting the information in this internet era was not only the problem. Getting the correct and right information was the real challenge that we all were facing. And for our researchers, it was of utmost importance to get the accurate information within a stipulated time frame. So controlling, filtering the information for them was a major challenge for our library science personals. To shed more light on this, today we have our expertise from library and information sciences with us, who all will be talking on this particular thing throughout our session. Now, without wasting much more time, I would like to introduce Dr. Sangeeta Kaul, ma'am. Though she is a very well-known personality to all of us, but still I would call a brief intro about her. Dr. Sangeeta Kaul is Director, Delnet Developing Library Network, New Delhi. She is working in Delnet for past 26 years. She has worked as Network Manager Delnet till July 2020 and then took over as the Director Delnet. She has been involved with the creation of Union Catalog, developed the Web OPAC and ILLDDS tracking software at Delnet. She is actively involved as a resource person to impart training to LIS professions in Koha Open Source Integrated Library Management and Mark 21. She has authored nearly 25 papers and edited 12 books. She was awarded with the Satkal Best Women Librarian Award in 2003. She has been a course writer for IGNU, course for retrospective conversation in libraries and Mark 21 modules for Master of Library Science program. She got the Outstanding Paper Award from Emerald Publishing UK for the year 2011 for her paper in the journal International Interlending and Document Supply. She has also been awarded with the prestigious International Visitor Leadership Award of the US Department of the State and visited many countries, US libraries, museum, archives in USS in 2012. She was also a member of the working group on National Virtual Library, Networking and ICT application in libraries for the National Mission of Library, Government of India. She is the organizing secretary for National Convention of Knowledge on Knowledge, Library and Information Network organized every year by Delnet. She has visited many countries, including Germany, Kazakhstan, Singapore, Sri Lanka, Thailand, US, and many more for her professional assignments. So, Sangeeta ma'am, over to you,
Thank you.
our virtual
Thank you. Yeah.
podium.
Thank you very much. Thank you so very much, Riparna. And a very warm good afternoon to all of you and warm greetings. At the very outset, I would just like to convey my very sincere thanks to Mr. Kailash Balani ji, with whom we have a very long time association. It's indeed so wonderful to be here on this platform today and to interact with each one of you. Also, my very special, I would like to convey, the presence, and it's indeed so wonderful to see many of our longtime professional colleagues who are the main speakers of the session today. It's a pleasure to be here today, and I must convey my thanks, to Balani Saab and to Dr. Sriparna for giving me a chance to be here this afternoon with each one of you and to share, some of our concerns. The topic chosen, indeed, this is something which is the need of the hour, and that we, the professionals, really have to ensure that we have geared up, and have prepared ourselves well, for this. I hope, Dr. Sriparna, that the screen is visible. If you can confirm it once.
Ma'am, right now,
the screen sharing, I have done that. Are you able to see the screen?
Ma'am,
The
right now,
presentation file?
No, ma'am, right now, the presentation is not visible. Please share it once again.
Just for a second, because I have done that. Just for a second. In fact, it's why this issue has happened. Sriparna, can you from your side can give the privilege, because I could see that, I'm not able to get a link for.
Just a second, ma'am. We are looking into it. Just a
second. Because I'm not able.
Yes, ma'am. The link, the right is already shared with you. Please just check once again.
No, because I'm not able to get that, kind of pop up, over here for sharing that. It's not there, in fact.
Sangeeta, you look at on the bottom side, there is a link security participant chat, screen share and record and the reaction.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not able to see that part over here. It was there a while ago. It was there a while ago, but what really happened,
Sangeeta,
What?
can you move your circle just cursor?
Ma'am, do the full screen. Once you do the full screen,
No, the
because
full no, the full screen. I have already done it, Sriparna, from here. Uh-huh.
ma'am, then exit one from the full screen.
No, I have done that too, means it should not, this should not have happened. What I feel is, Sriparna, if you can, I think, let me then rejoin back, because there looks to be an issue. And if you can, I think I'm requesting then Dr. Akhtar, if you can start off. Let me just then rejoin back, this meet, because it's not,
Yeah,
it's,
definitely, ma'am.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
absolutely
Let's
fine. It's
Dr. Akhtar
absolutely
take
fine.
it, and then let me rejoin back. Yeah,
Oh, sure.
Okay, okay,
yeah,
okay, okay, okay.
Thanks, Sangeeta.
yeah. Thanks, Akhtar. Yeah.
Thank you, Akhtar sir, for joining with us. And I would like to give all of our participants a brief introduction about Akhtar Parvez sir. He is University Librarian at Maulana Azad National Urdu University and is nodal officer for all the departments of 12 satellite campuses libraries of the university. Prior to joining Manu in January 2017, he worked as librarian at the prestigious Indian Institute of Management, Indore. He was also the first authority on RTI matters at IIM Indore. Dr. Parvez has about 32 years of professional experience of working in prestigious institutes, both in government and private sectors. The institutions include National Council of Applied Economic Research, the American Center USIS New Delhi, Delnet, Indian International Center, ICARA, and IIM Indore. Dr. Parvez has authored, edited 10 books, contributed 20 papers in journals and books, and he has delivered more than 200 invited lectures on various issues related to the field of library and information sciences. He has won the Best Paper Award during the International Conference on Innovations in Engineering and Management held at Waljet College of Applied Sciences, Muscat, Oman in February 2016. Dr. Parvez sir was recognized as the Outstanding Management Librarian by Association of Indian Management Scholars and Institutes of Rural Management, Promising Professional Award by SRFLIS, Best Young Librarian Award from Indore Division Library Association, Vishwa Lakshmi Best Management Librarian Award, and few other prestigious awards in the field of library and information sciences. He is one of the member of Management Libraries Network and has been contributed to Malbibnet activities since 1998 to 99. And Parvez sir, now over to you. Thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you.
with us.
Thank you. Thank you. And it's indeed a pleasure to be here this afternoon. And I would like to thank you and, of course, Balani Saab for giving me this opportunity. And I'm very happy that, as Sangeeta also said, that we could see a lot of old friends in this discussion. So I welcome all those people and, of course, the participants. And a very good afternoon to everybody who is participating in this discussion today. So as you all are aware, the topic of discussion today is the strategies and tools to counter information overflow. So I think you all know, how information is overflowing, or you can say information overload. But the problem is, some of us probably uh, are not aware as to how, we can counter, or what are the tools by which we can really counter this information overload. So just to, begin my presentation, let me tell you that as you all are aware, it is called information overflow, information abundance, too much of information, and of course, information overload. Now, this term information overload, as you may be aware, was first used by Professor Gross in his book, The Managing of Organizations. But, later in 1970, um, Alvin Toffler is another author who published a book entitled Future Shock. And he, in 1970, used this term in his book once again. And after he used this book, used this particular term, the term became quite, popular. And Alvin Toffler is the same person who once said that illiterate of 21st century will not be those who cannot read or write, but it will be those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. And I think that is the whole crux of the matter that we are going to discuss today. So, if you see the information overload, right from the Gutenberg's time, what we see there, that what we saw there, that there are a lot of printed material, and we were not able to really absorb everything, what was being printed or published. Then, photocopier came, and the multiplication of information was phenomenal. Now we see that digitization of documents is taking place, and it is very simple. In fact, if you want to scan a paper, you can very easily do it with the help of a mobile phone too. So the digitization has become quite easy, and the distribution has also become quite easy. Similarly, what we see is, especially, after the open access movement is started, publishing became quite easy, and anyone was able to publish. And there are websites where you can go and publish whatever you want. And then, of course, nobody can deny the uh, importance of social media, which is a very, very powerful tool to convey what you want, including Facebook, Twitter, blogs, etc. And we also have academic social networks. Then, you all are aware, and I'm sure you all must be having multiple email IDs. So for example, if I speak about myself, I have one email ID, official ID in the name of librarian, then I have one email ID in my own name, and then I have personal email ID also. And at times you have to use your wife's email also. You have to manage that also. And I always get inspiration from Mr. Balani's WhatsApp status, where he has written that no life without wife. So I think he has written this in a very sophisticated manner, and probably we don't have any option but to uh, use our wife's emails also, or manage those emails. Then the ease of creating, duplicating, or sharing and distribution information has again has become so easy, and again in countless formats. Apart from the legitimate information that we have been managing or seeing, what we see today is the fake information, or even fake journals, that is called predatory publishing also, videos, etc. So basically what I'm trying to say is that information overload is adversely affecting both, not just the individuals, but also the organizations or corporations. So this slide, I really like this slide, because there's so much information, and the person standing here alone, he doesn't know what to do. I'm very sure that some of you must have read this article, which was published in the Harvard Business Review, that is Death by Information Overload. And this article revealed some very interesting things. One was, it said that the surging volume of available information and its interruptions in people works can adversely affect not only personal well-being, but also decision making, innovation, and productivity. See, this is what I was trying to say, that it does not just affect the individuals, but it also affects the uh, 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 organizations. Dr. Sriparna, can I request you to please ask someone to manage these people who are admitting, because it is popping up on my screen and again.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, and then in one study, it was revealed that people took an average of nearly 25 minutes to return to a work after an email interruption, and I'm sure all of you must be experiencing it every day. Some of the researchers say that the stress of not being able to process information as fast as it arrives, combined with the personal and social expectation that say you will answer every email message, can demoralize you. And another psychiatrist argued that the modern workplace induces what he calls attention deficit trait, with characteristics similar to those of the genetically based disorder. And I am very sure that you also must have experienced that there may be some of your friends or officials or your colleagues, if you don't respond to their emails within 2 3 hours, they start getting irritated. And I see that, I consider that as an anxiety, which develops in people when they don't get response uh, immediately after sending their emails. This particular article which I was talking about, also suggested that relentless cascade of information lowers people's intelligence, and this is really serious. And then, a study which was commissioned by Hewlett Packard reported that IQ scores of knowledge workers distracted by email and phone calls fell from their normal level by an average of 10 points, which is actually twice the decline recorded for those smoking marijuana. So I think you can imagine, how serious the problem is. And this particular article revealed few more things that says, that ringing phones and uh, emails alerts lowers IQ by 10 points. Information overload, this is 2009 article. So that caused the US economy 900 billion a year. 60% of computer users check emails in the bathroom. I'm very sure in the bathroom you can do only one thing. So I really don't understand why people take their mobile phones in their bathrooms. A typical knowledge worker turns to email 50 to 60 times a day. 85% of computer users say they would take a laptop on vacation. And the employees say that 1 out of every 3 emails are unnecessary. So this is the kind of overload of information that we all are witnessing. And this I'm very sure you must have read, where where 44 it was reported that 44% Indians is struggling with information overload amid pandemic. I'm very sure you all must have experienced that, how pandemic created so much information. Everybody was giving gyan on something or the other as to how you can really get I mean get recovered from corona, what all you can do. And every WhatsApp messages had something or the other about how you can get rid of corona, etc., etc. And what we saw during that time, that even people, responsible people, were also uh, giving a lot of information about corona. And possibly that was the reason why the government of India had to uh, release a document saying that you don't have to trust everyone, you trust only Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. So that was the kind of information overload. So basically, there is so much information uh, overflow, or there is so much information overload that we really find it very difficult to handle. And if you go on the internet, and if you want to see or you want to get some information, it sometimes become extremely difficult. And I really like this particular slide which says that getting information off the internet is like taking a drink from a fire hydrant. And which I'm very sure you all know, it's almost impossible to take a drink from a fire hydrant. So this is the kind of situation that we all are going through. This particular website where I went, I found another very interesting thing, and this is actually quite relevant, especially for uh, the information managers or knowledge workers. So what is that? It said that the speed of young people's web searching means that little time is spent in evaluating information, either for relevance, accuracy, or authority. And this, I think, we should, as librarians, we should take it very, very seriously. Then, coming back to the same question, that the topic of today, that is, what are the strategies and tools to counter information overflow? Since I'm given I have been given 20 minutes. I'm sure I'll be able to finish within the allotted time. So what are the strategies and tools to counter information overflow? So in the context of libraries, if we discuss, let us first talk of organizing information. So if we take this particular thing, that is organize information, what today we find that even in libraries where you have OPAC, it will really not have everything. So I think it is very, very important that every library or librarian must ensure that whatever he or she has in his or her library, make sure that it is reflected in the online public access catalog, because that is a page where your faculty or students, they visit every day, and that should act as the complete guide for various kinds of information products or databases or whatever you have. So like for example, what I generally see is that ebooks have been given at a separate page on the internet. I mean, why can't you import all the ebooks, the Mark 21 records into the catalog, so that people are able to uh, just not able to see the print, but also are able to see the electronic documents that you have in the library? Why you want to make them go to different website or different URL to see all the ebooks that you have? And then second, if you have money, of course you can go for discovery service, though if there is an open source application also, but that is so difficult that I'm sure it is not easy to implement in our libraries. The next thing I want to tell you is, as I just said, that user cannot be expected to remember all the URLs and password, and hence it becomes extremely, extremely important that the integration of information is very, very important, and especially you should do this on your OPAC. Lot of faculty members, research scholars I see, they struggle managing their research papers, videos which may be useful to them, web pages, and their own publications. So I think that is one area where research scholars and faculty and also librarians must make sure that the information is organized in such a manner that you don't have to really struggle and look in different folders to search for the relevant information that you want. I'm very sure that you all may be aware of various reference organizers, etc. So I'm not going to talk in detail, but I think that is one way. Then the last thing in this context is linking of content. Okay, I know there can be an argument, there is too much to link, but whatever is relevant for our area of study, I think that we should do. I also, whether it is physical classrooms or online classrooms, I see that people find it difficult to uh, uh, communicate with their students. But I'm very sure that if there is a platform where information is organized properly, I think it would become quite easy. The second thing, which is not specific to the library science, but in general, I used to get quite irritated with all the notifications that used to come when I was working on something. So I think it would be a good idea to switch off all the notifications, at least those who which are not very important, or which are distracting you from your work. You can always unsubscribe a lot of emails alert that keep coming every now and then, and I have been doing it very regularly. Whether you want or not, somehow you start getting emails. I have seen a lot of emails I get from ministries. So I think if they are not relevant, probably it will be a good idea to uh, unsubscribe those emails, or maybe you can just mark them as a spam. But having said that, you also must make sure that important messages are not missed out. So I think that also you can those such messages or emails can be starred. Another thing which I was just talking about was the accuracy or authenticity of information. Now what I find today is, especially in younger generation, that they go on the internet and take whatever they get. I think it is not really a good practice. What you should do is perhaps, to the extent possible, try to use the primary sources of information for your research. And like, just for example, if you want data on foreign trade of particular commodity, I think you can always go to Director of Foreign Trade Statistics, or if you want data on IIP or inflation, etc. I think Central Statistical Organization is the best place. Similarly, if you want to know how many Maruti cars have been sold in a particular month or year, I suggest that probably Society for Indian Automobile Manufacturers. So I think I think understanding of getting information from primary sources is very, very important. Now, second, I feel is that you must understand or know or learn the Google search techniques. And if you learn this, I'm quite certain that to a large extent you will not get unnecessary material for your research or for your study. The third thing in this particular sequence I would like to say is that a lot of people just use any image or video or music without realizing that there may be copyright to those creations. So what do you do? I think it's important that we learn to take only those uh, information which is under Creative Commons licensing. A lot of people also, I have seen that they struggle with in getting data for their research. So I think there are data sets at a lot of websites. Some of these websites are extremely important. So I think that could be one way of reducing your uh, I mean, reducing to see what you the inflow of information. The next thing, I just said in the beginning, the fake information. So I think we probably have to understand. See, the best thing to understand, or the best thing or the best practice would be, whenever you get any message or a video which you have little doubt, I think consider that as fake. Because if you don't consider that, possibly you will end up falling prey to such messages. And these fake information or fake videos, this is dangerous to any thriving democracy like ours. So I think that we all have to understand how to get rid of such things. And this is last thing, the self discipline is very, very important. I have seen a lot of people, they the whole the day they keep seeing the social sites. So I think it will be good, if you can just discipline yourself instead of seeing it every 2 hours on 1 hour. At least it's better than you decide a time, maybe 1 hour in the morning or in the evening, to just see what is happening on the social network side. Of course, you cannot get rid of completely, but then you have to discipline yourself. I think that self discipline is very, very important. But having said that, that technology is actually providing you with a lot of information overload. But let me tell you that only technology can beat technology. So you have to be smart enough to beat technology with technology. There, what I see and have been seeing for the last many years, that there are transformative works. So what are transformative works? Some of the examples of transformative works, you all very well know. A Clear Tip is one. Then Trivago. Earlier, we were going to different websites, so with these airlines and hotels and doing booking. But now, you have that application. Similarly, we get books from Amazon and Flipkart, but then now you have India Bookstore, and there are a few other websites also, where you can go and see at what price a book is available at Amazon and Flipkart. So I think these are the transformative works which are actually helping us a lot. And then these, I'm very sure the discovery services that you have. So if you can afford, there's no problem in going with that. But I think not everyone can afford. And Hathi Trust Digital Library, is one such not-for-profit collaborative of academic and research libraries, which preserves more than 1,700 million digitized documents. So this is a very fine example of a transformative work. In fact, a lot of publishers, they went to the court saying that, they cannot do it. They cannot just collect information. But then luckily, the court ordered in favor of Hathi Trust Digital Library and said that this is a transformative works. And this particular site is only making life easy for researchers in locating information. So I, see this a very good example of transformative works. And you all know that, these days publishers are after such initiatives. One is, of course, the internet archives, and I think it is still pending in the court. I don't know the latest status of that. So I think these are few things which really we can try to do. And I did not want to make it very complex. I thought maybe I should explain you in simple terms what all you can do, or what are different tools. So technology, as I said, what happens tomorrow you don't know, but whatever happens in technology, it will be drastic, and it will be very, very interesting. But at the same time, you should not become slave to the technology. I see, people, in the same flat, they are exchanging messages. I think it would be good if you can talk to people instead of just sending message to a person who is, or to your brother or sister or son or daughter who is sitting in the next room. Similarly, what I see is that I'm not really criticizing, but what I see is that people are wishing birthdays to their wives, their children on Facebook. I think it would be good if you just can speak to them. So let us not become slaves to the technology, but let us use it as a tool to, strengthen your research and your uh, field of study. So I think with these, I'll just conclude this, and I would like to thank once again to all the participants, and of course, Balani Saab and Dr. Sriparna for giving me the opportunity. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Akhtar sir, for your very, very nice and interesting presentation. How this technology is making us their slaves, and this is a very well-known example. What we all are seeing, even we have seen many a times as memes. People are doing that, sitting in a same restaurant table, but everybody is on their phone, and that's a very sad situation at times, and that is also because of technology. Yes, so maybe these are the pros and cons that we have to face with everything. So I guess now we will be having Sangeeta ma'am with us for her presentation. So Sangeeta ma'am, over to you. Ma'am, you need to unmute yourself. You're on mute.
Sriparna, are you able to see
Yes,
the
ma'am.
slide now? Are you able to see the slide?
No, Sangeeta, no. Yeah, I think no.
Just for a second. Yeah, I have done it. Is it there?
No.
No, ma'am.
Sangeeta, you are able to see share screen button in the
no,
bottom?
I have clicked onto it. What's really happening?
Okay,
I have
after clicking, no, Sangeeta, after clicking, you must be.
share. Share.
Yes.
Is it there now?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am. It's there.
I think, I was just skipping on, this step, and I was opening this. Yeah.
But I helped
Thank
you.
God. Yeah. Thank you very much, Akhtar. Thank you so much indeed. And also otherwise to thank you, because you have made my things easier, as you have already, covered fairly, good part of my presentation. So that's really nice enough. It makes the things easier for me. So no more information overload for our, attendees. So that's really nice. And a very fine presentation by you, Akhtar. Thank you so much. It was indeed a lot many newer things, have seen. And thank you so very much for this. And thank you for the patience for each one of you. I'm sorry for the technical glitches in, having the session earlier. So the title of the session, as a session of this webinar on strategies and tools for countering information overload, though the topic given by Dr. Sriparna was the overflow, but I deliberately have tried to make it as an overload, because overload is something which you always find it more stressful. If you say overflow, you always say you have enough of it. That's a more joyous situation, because overflowing something, that means you have ample of it and you are very happy with it, that it's overflowing with joy, overflowing with, abundance and abundance independence you have. But when we say the word overload, that's a kind of an techno stress that you have. You feel more stressed out if you say that you are overloaded. You are overloaded with work, you are overloaded with information, you are overloaded with anything. So that's the reason, Dr. Sriparna, have deliberately changed it rather than an overflowing one, which is a more situation that everyone would like to, maybe to be in that. So have used the word as an overloading. I would like to see, because it's overlapping my, I'm sorry, because Zoom I have not been using much, because we hold our things onto some different platforms. It's overlapping the display anyhow. So I would just like to start off with this wonderful quote from John Nisbet, who said, "We are drowning in information, but starved for knowledge." And this really depicts the current scenario in which all of us are there, and we encounter every moment in our life, whether we are in the professional spaces or we are in the personal spaces, we really encounter the situation that though we find ourselves that we are drowning in information, you have enough of the information around, but you are starved for knowledge. And that's what we as a library and information science professionals, we have greater and greater responsibilities in today's day and time to ensure that we don't get drowned, in this deluge of information which is around. And we have to, that's the reason there is a need for the library professionals, to work more as a knowledge workers, to give the most relevant content, to our clientele, to our users, to our researchers and scholars, and not to make them, starved for knowledge. And this is a very wonderful title of Mega Trends. I think some of you might have read this title, by and John Nisbet's title. And another quote by Levitin in 2014, who said that the information age is drowning us with an unprecedented deluge of data. Undoubtedly, all of us are fully aware with this fact. Schenck in 1997 described this entire phenomena of information overload as data smoke, the muck and the drug of the information age. And that is, saying it in a tone that yes, this is what exactly is happening, when we are talking about the information age. And this is what is happening when we have enough of this, the information around with us, because there's a data smoke. There is a smoke that you can't see the things properly. Whatever is being hidden behind that, you are not able to see. So it's really obstructing your vision. It is obstructing the vision of the information seekers who are looking for most authentic, as being said by Dr. Akhtar, the authenticity of information is getting lost because everyone is just wanting to have a very quick access, to the information. And that's what these terminologies of data smoke, it's a smoking, you are able to see that you're not able to see what is the truth behind, what is this information, and that's all of us are being encountering that. So in the knowledge economy, all of us fully aware with the fact that information remains our most valuable commodity. So the countries who are, we have the knowledge powers now. This is what we call the fourth wave, that those who are having, the enough of knowledge, and information with them, those are the countries who are really going to lead the world. So the knowledge and the information, remains as the most strongest points, whether it remains for the individuals, it remains with the nations. So we have to but ensure that we are able to have an access to that valuable knowledge, that that asset as information as an asset. But we have to really see where is that asset, are we able to really make the best use of them in the right possible manner. The current research has also suggested that the surging volume of available information can adversely affect not only our personal well-being, but also, most importantly, it can affect our decision making, innovation, and productivity. And that's the reason why everyone is so much concerned about that. It's no one feels happy enough, you when you give them lot much of information, because it makes you feel perplexed at times, what is right and what is wrong. And yes, the decision making also takes a hit because of this, because the users are not able to really analyze, that huge abundance of information, and it is indeed leading, and impacting also their innovation and productivity. Because what is, that's a growing role of the library information science professionals, to analyze the information and to authenticate that information. That endorsement has to come from the library professionals, wherein we put a stamp and says, yes, it is right for consumption. This is what you can really can take. And this presentation is more oriented in making all of us aware that what is a way that we should move ahead. This is from IDC, this is an information explosion that all of us, it's getting exploded. It's something that is beyond, our own imaginations. And as we can notice this from the IDC, that is International Data Corporation, which keeps an eye, on the data which gets generated across the world. It is basically a global market intelligence firm, who said that there will be 175 zettabytes of data stored on computers, with about half of it in the cloud by 2025, in yet another 4 years period. So one can see that this is something which is unimaginable. No one has ever imagined about it, and also at the same time most unmanageable. So both it is unimaginable, you can't imagine this and could not have imagined about it, and at the same time unmanageable, you can't really manage this whole exploded volume of data which is there. And I think we library and information science professionals now have a greater and greater role to play our roles very wisely, in a very pragmatic manner, to serve our users, because otherwise they will just be lost, in this huge deluge of information. So employees spend 1 day per week searching for information necessary to do their job successfully, according to Interact. This is again an intelligence firm, which, data intelligence firm, which said that the employees spend 1 day per work week. So one entire day you are spending in searching for information necessary to execute your own work at your own workplaces. So one can imagine one entire day, we feel that it's just taking a 2 minutes of ours, it's just taking a 5 minutes of ours. But if we really see that how much time it's stealing, from your productive time, it really, that's something to look into. The IDC data also shows that the knowledge workers spend 2.5 hours each day looking for information. And knowledge workers, we all library and information science professionals, so 2.5 hours, like we are, as a part of our work, all the time you are looking for information. But when we talk about the organizations, more knowledge oriented organizations, in addition even to the libraries, so they're spending around 2.5 hours looking for information, because you have a huge information, but what is right for you to consume, what is right for you to analyze and further to proceed, because entire works, entire projects, entire R&D work, everything just gets rested on what is the ground data, what is the base data that you are offering. So we the professionals really have to play a role in that. Now I would just like to share with you, and this is while preparing for this presentation, have come across this term, what we call infobesity. Obesity definitely is a worldwide concern, obesity, but it is now more an infobesity. So infobesity, that is, you are getting obese, not by having sedentary lifestyles or not having a very active lifestyles, but you are getting obese with having lot much of information with you, or information overload that we say. So no one wants to be obese, everyone wants to remain very fit and fine and fully energizing all the time. So an infobesity is something which is encountered by everyone. So this is info plus obesity becomes infobesity. And this is term now which is being used as consuming too much information can cloud our ability to make good decisions. Undoubtedly, all of us encounters this at every moment. You encounter, whether you are sitting as a library professionals doing it, or you are in your own personal spaces, you do encounter this issue, that there's lot much of information, what is right and what is wrong and what is good enough for you, to use it, it remains as a major concern. So we have to really keep ourselves fit enough, in having the information which is a well filtered information, which which is the information which is the most authentic and accurate information, that role we library and information science professionals have to do. So information overload occurs when decision makers face a level of information that is greater than their information processing capacity. That is an overly high information load. And please remember, this information processing capacity is not only of the CPUs, of the computers and the servers. We are talking about our own information processing capacity. How much can we process as an individual, as a researcher, as a faculty? How much can we really, how much are we going to give them? And what is the capability of and a capacity of that person, to withstand, that kind of load? So the problem of information overload was also reported by the scholars. It's not something very new, very current that we are encountering now in last 2-3 decades because of the internet, because of the new tools and technologies which are coming into play. But yes, even this was reported in the 13th century, that this information overload, even in 13th century. And the reason was the multitude of books, the shortness of time, and the slipperiness of memory that was leading to this information overload even way back in the 13th century. There are very wonderful articles being written on that this is since time immemorial that the users have been encountering this problem of the information overload. But yes, we are witnessing that now. So overload doesn't happen only when we look for information. We professionals spend hours filtering out the relevant content for our users and also for our own selves. So with the advent of technology, a great amount of information is now available in great variety of formats. As being said, by Dr. Akhtar, that we have variety of formats in which now this information is there, as emails, through social medias, wikis, through various platforms, you keep on getting, this information. And the problem of this information overload is not something new. And three decades ago, CLEP noted the problem relating to information overload and associated boredom in societies. And I have mentioned about, this particular title being written by him, that is Overload and Boredom, Essays on the Quality of Life. And you should refer to this as a very, very interesting, book being authored by him. Then what we really mean when we say an information overload. So this term is used to represent a state of affairs where an individual's efficiency in using information in their work is hampered by the amount of relevant and potentially useful information available to them. Because that's wherein this entire issue comes of feeling overloaded. It's not that that you have enough of that information. You do have enough, but the problem comes that you have too much of information, and it's really impacting the real work of an individual. It can also be defined as a subjective experience of the insufficiency of time, and that's being reported by researchers and scholars. That's being reported to the library professionals by our library users, that, sir, you're giving me too much of information, I'm getting lost in it. I just want precisely this information. I just precisely looking for this. They're not really. And I think the internet, the pace of the internet, the pace of the digital lifestyles have made the people to respond, and they just want it is ready to cook kind of and solutions that they are wanting it now. And they're not really, they don't no longer have even a patience to go through a very exhaustive listing. In today's day and time, if you say to someone that I'll send you a bibliography of 100 articles and you just go through it and tell us which 30 you want out of it, they would say, no, you just send me 30. I don't have time to go through those 100. And that's what we library and information science professionals have to do, because it's being felt that these professionals, these users who needs information, they are finding insufficiency of time needed to make effective use of information resources available in their specific situations. I would just like to, mention that this is a study being conducted in a number of countries, including in Australia, Hong Kong, UK, and USA. Sorry, there's a typo here, USA. It is reported that information overload results in loss of time, negative effect on work, reduce efficiency, frustration, tiredness, stress, negative effect on decision quality, and reduce productivity. And also it also causes the loss of job satisfaction. This is a very interesting graph, I would just like to share with you all, which it is like you can see on the x-axis, it's an information load, it's getting increased, the information, we are providing more and more information, leading to the information load, what is there, and the decision making process. And the interesting finding made by Driver and Strafford in 1969 said that the relation between information load and the decision making process performance, saying that from a cognitive viewpoint, decision makers cannot use more than their own limitation of information processing capacity. So even if you are providing on x-axis, you can see even if you provide them so much of this information, but decision making, how much a person can absorb, how much a person can process, how much a person can has a capacity to absorb that information, you can see here it is only till here, it is only at the step. This is what we call the inverted U curve. It's a U curve, but it's an inverted one, it's upside down. And you can see here, this is the the point till which they can absorb, and then after that you can see there is a downfall. They will just give up, and then they will say, oh yes, we are now in totally overloaded with information. So the every individual has got their own capacity for information absorption, and we as professionals must really know what is the level of our the library users to whom we are giving, how much can we give it to them. And there comes our role of working as the mediators in giving that information. So we should not make their lives frustrated by giving them lot much of information to process, saying that these are the 50 articles from various sources and you do. No, you must really try to assess what is this cutting point, how much can they absorb, because their decision making, whether it's for projects, whether it's for their academics, whether it's for any other purpose, it entirely depends. So, and that would chiefly vary from individual to individual. That will chiefly vary from the category of users, whether it's a faculty, it's a student, it's a special R&D team who is working on a project. It will vary, but we should be the ones who should always keep in mind about this specific thing. Now, I would just like to share with you that this is a very wonderful information overload research group has been made. You can just go and visit this website, which carries very interesting activities, which carries very interesting webinars, programs from time to time on information overload. And the site is IORG Forum, that is IORG, iorgforum.org. And this organization, is working with the prime goal of reducing information pollution. And I remember, through this, our Reverend Dr. Call, who wrote a very wonderful article, 2 years ago on this information pollution, that how the entire information landscape is getting changed because of this information pollution which is happening. And that's the major area of this particular organization, to ensure that they're able to reduce this information pollution, they're able to reduce this information overload. Now, when we talk about the strategies to counter information, I know that 20 minutes have been given, so I would just like to keep myself a little more abstract. Strategies to counter information overload. So you have strategies at a personal level, filtering the information sources, delegating the work and prioritizing the work. Strategies at the organizational level, organizing the work and enhancing the communication. Strategies for the utilization of technology. We do have now intelligent agents, who can do a filtering of the work or even ranking of electronic resources. I think we library professionals must really do that. You must do the ranking of electronic resources for your own users, for various disciplines of knowledge. Tell them that this is the ranking. According to you, this is a top ranking electronic resource subscribed by the library that they should try to, make a use for. Strategy called withdrawal strategy that works at the level of information source. So the information source is very important. Withdrawal means you are just keeping them away. You are not considering that as a source, for referring to. And this would really minimize, oneself from having lot much of information around. So you need to select only the reliable sources of information. And the strategy, we called it as a withdrawal strategy. You withdraw that, it's like withdrawing the books from the library. You withdraw certain sources saying that no, they are not to be, we are not going to refer to them for our own. And filtering definitely is yet another strategy. We now have tools and technologies in place for doing that. Now, I would just like to quickly mention about the information guides. This is how the things are happening now in the libraries. You need to create and these information guides for your users, and the creation of guides to library and internet resources, subscribed resources to direct users to relevant material is an important strategy for reducing individuals' information load. The research has found the efficacy of providing these guides in print as well as in online formats to enhance usage. These information guides can be organized by, you can do it, organizing it by subject, by academic courses, and alphabetically supports the findability of library material. So you can very well can do, and people, they just find it very good, We still remember the times of Yahoo when they used to have, way back in late 1990s, everyone, the browsing is something that the user finds us more comfortable rather than searching for the things. So you can create, it's to guide to the information resources that you have. These guides should include all relevant resources available to users, such as databases, journals, ebooks, reference materials, websites, and other open sources. Dr. Akhtar also have mentioned about it, that there is a greater need for doing this, and through these information guides you can do. Other one I would mention is the development of dashboards. The dashboards, please, don't think that they are the dashboards you're going to see only in the library applications, but you need to create an interactive dashboard, in order to ensure that you push, the content, a more personalized content to a user. So you're going to do a user profiling. User profiling is a very important aspect, and especially in the times when we are being in this data flooding that we are encountering, information flooding that we have. So you need to have a user profiling. So because the same syntax, the same keywords, depending on the background of that user, you have to give them a very different kind of a service. But you can use this dashboard service wherein the system is going to take care of it. You have a technology with you which can help you out. So you should try to develop these dashboards. Also providing facilities for summary and trends. It's a very, very important thing, that a summary of the things, even whether it's a book or whether it's any kind of a journal, you can say what are their areas and all, like make my book, so a user can say, please give me a book on this, and your work, which can very intelligently can be taken care of, bringing together the content and pushing that. The trends is yet another feature which the libraries worldwide are now doing it. The trends feature, bringing together the knowledge resources for the users. What are the emerging trends happening in those places? It really keeps the people focused. They would not go to Google and just try to consume whatsoever is available. You should be the one who brings together that content and analyze them, filter them, and then you provide it. So improving website design and promoting its use, please keep a very close note of it, that a worldwide surveys have typically demonstrated that this really helps in reducing the user's information overload. And you should have the library's website a nicely designed website, especially this drop down navigation tools. The research shows that the students, they greatly value this navigation drop down tools. Also, it should have a Google custom search function. You can get it integrated in your library websites, and also the ability to process natural languages. So NLP should also be integrated, as well as the federated searching. Users format preferences, please kindly, in today's day and time, it's very, very important. Do a survey, find it out how the users want this information. They want it online, they want it to get delivered on their mobile devices, on their smartphones. How do they want to get that information? And there is a need for continuously doing these surveys to determine the format preferences. Also, the information literacy has to be promoted, and for especially for tackling, this information overload. We literally have to, make this information literacy as a very strong, weapon, to fight against this information overload issue. Because our users, we see at times that they're not even knowing, they lack that skill set, even to make a use of, how to access the information, and they are getting flooded, with the information. So they really must be taught that what are the right ways, in doing, and through the information literacy, and also to make it sure that these user critical thinking skills, to be provided, to these users. Time saving strategies to combat information. We library professionals must encourage our users to review the particular books, whether they are on Amazon or they are there anywhere, before they, really refer to the entire full text book. They should firstly see the reviews. We need to cultivate those habits in them, that please, sir, you have a look at the reviews. New York book reviews, means I don't know how many of them, people, they see that. Or even on Amazon now, one can go and see what the book is all about, rather than just having the entire book and then later on realizing that this was not something that they were looking for. We have a growing role now of the recommender system. I would just like to mention that this is the growing technology, how the world is now moving, how these technologies are coming into the libraries. That is to integrate the recommender system. It's again a very, we have a use of an artificial intelligence tools, wherein the system predicts. It's also able to tell you from your past searching history, what is there, and it's able to do that K map. That is a knowledge mapping work it does, wherein keeping you focused, keeping you and giving you the right kind of a hits, very well filtered hits. And this is what is, we should really try to do that. And it's happening now, predicting the future preference of a set of items for a user and filtered resources. So what kind of searches you had done in the past, what is the thing which is now being published, and then it does a kind of a K map, that is a mapping. You use notifications wisely, as this was also being said by Dr. Akhtar, that people, most of the people are used to reviewing notifications in their personal lives. 50% of the employees opine that they are less productive due to the workplace distractions. Even if you're in the middle of a work, you get a notification which is of no use to you, and you would just press the delete key, but yes, it's taking away, so you must really see to it, that you should try to use it in a, not as a distracting thing. Use of AI tools. Just would like to mention that we have AI tools now, Jane.ai and Pendexo, which can help in mining information and providing replies through chatbots. So chatbot is yet another, AI tool wherein we have an integration of NLP and AI. I just wanted through this platform to share with you that on 12th of March, Delnet will be holding a webinar on chatbots, which is in collaboration with the IEEE and our CM Chennai chapter, for creating the chatbot services in the libraries. And that's making, the things more relevant for the professionals. Also, the use of voice computing technologies, it can help a lot. And this has started already happening, that is how the voice technologies can help you in culling out the most desired information, and you are not being lost, in this entire, information deluge. Also, social media analytical tools. There's a need now for a social listening. That's what is the current trend now. We have to keep our ears open for social listening, we as a professionals, because our, the young generation, that we find it around, they are all being glued to that. So we must have acquired these skill sets for social listening. And there are a number of open source social media analytical tools which are available. They are all open source. You can use them and you can analyze. This will also help you a lot in information overload, because you can approach those communities, whether it's your users, your students, your faculty, or any community which is being more relevant to the libraries. You can always push your content, to those specified, groups using this. And lastly, I would like to say, I think I have already offshooted, the time allotted to me, but let me just, lastly, this is the last slide to tell you that kindly read the book to offload the information overload. And this is a very fantastic book on the organized mind. Thinking Straight in the Age of Information Overload by Daniel Levitin, who has done enormous work, a psychologist who has done enormous work. And I think you can get a copy and take out some time, and you would entirely feel a bit more relaxed after, reading this book. So it was truly a great pleasure and honor, to interact with each one of you. And uh, I pass on the baton back to Dr. Sriparna. Over to you, Sriparna. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Sangeeta ma'am. We got to know about such synonyms for the information overload, like infobicity, and the thing that you mentioned, like how many a times researchers have to come up with 20 papers out of the 100 papers. That reminded me one of my research time during my PhD, when my supervisor told me out of 250 papers, you have to get back to me with the bibliography of 20 papers which are relevant to you. So yes, this kind of things are very much difficult, and for researchers to process the information in such shorter time is a tough job, and it
Right.
obviously decreases the productivity, and we don't consider it much, but yes, it obviously affects the
It is
mental health as well. So
very true.
very very thank you so much ma'am for putting
Thank
your
you.
words in
Yeah.
such a nice way.
Thank you,
So
Doctor. Thank you, Dr. Sriparna.
now moving ahead, we will start with our panel discussion on the topic. So first, I would like to invite our panelist, Mr. Manish Mankan sir. Manish Mankan sir is currently working as librarian at DAICT Gandhinagar, Gujarat. He held key position with BARC, Business India, Times of India, and in his last employment, he was working with Hindustan Unilever Limited, where Manish sir was responsible for managing a global team to deliver scientific and technical information to nearly 8,000 full-time scientists across the globe. During his 35 years of professional career, he has developed key skills in documentation, database development, taxonomy creation, information curating, user education, and many more trainings. He has authored several papers and is a UGC designated resource person for LIS refresher courses. He has interest in open source software, user experience, social digital media, website planning, designing, skill development, and collaborative projects that deliver common good. In his free time, he indulges in preparing vegetarian food, practicing yoga, and watching interesting documentary films. So, over to you, Manish sir.
Yeah, thank you, Sriparna, and
Thank you.
yeah, and welcome, all the participants and my fellow colleagues. So I would just screen. Let me just check out. Yes, this here it is.
Yes, sir, visible.
Yeah. Okay. I think first of all, I would like to thank Balani, because I have been listening to these webinars when I was in Bangalore. Now, currently, I'm of course come back to my office, but when I was working from home, these webinars used to be something to look forward to. Very, very different kind of topics and learned thoughts came about. So when this Shirparna just checked out with me whether I would like to join, there was no reason to get into this kind of sacred space, I should say. So yeah, thanks once again, and let us start on continuing with what our learned colleagues just now very well explained. I would go slightly into deeper mode without repeating something what they have said. So in something which we have in Sanskrit the saying, "Ati sarvatra varjayate." Anything in excess is bad. Yeah, and which is, I suppose, the crux of the issue today. Looking at the kind of information that we are surrounded, I would broadly categorize into kind of social, scientific, business, economic, commercial kind of spectrum. Jokingly, I would say from 00 to 999 of DDC, you have all sorts of information, flooding our universe. Now, when we look at the specific forms of information, we realize that numbers are completely daunting. Yeah. In terms of social information, you have demographics, census, societal norms, law, economics, history, geography, travel, education, politics, news, entertainment, religious, and spiritual content, so lifestyle related, art, culture, fashion, ethics, so on and so forth. And if you just look at the numbers which are thrown even at just the India level, I'm not even referring to the global. Global will be far more huge. These numbers are themselves, testimony that if you are trying to look at the information generated from these pointers, you will need a different strategies, to tackle the information flow or information overflow. Similarly, if you take the scientific information, where I personally, for example, connected, have been connected since since quite long. One of the very known fact that we have is the knowledge doubling rate, which is phenomenal. Like as I've been I have told that it's like almost every 13 hours total global knowledge gets doubled. And I'm sure science and technology must be playing a huge quantum of play in the overall universe creation, knowledge creation. So it's a medical, pharma, patents, technical literature, experimental data, design, drawings, and many more other forms of scientific information also forms a large chunk. So again, numbers speaks for themselves. Even just if you COVID part, for example, if you see the amount of information, I'm saying the genuine information generated COVID related is something humongous. And many of the publishers, they have done a good job. I mean, if you go to their website, you realize that they have carved out a specific content related to only COVID. And this is very useful, when you don't want to search the entire medical literature or pharma literature and just to filter out what you want on COVID, then this kind of strategy helps a lot. And these numbers, whatever we are seeing are not static, as we know. They keep changing as we talk. They keep growing as we talk. India is a growing economy. And we have seen since 1992 of liberalization, the entire economy, economic space, the business spectrum, the entrepreneurship, everything has added to the large pool of information. So it's about corporates, stock market, commodities, forex, economic policies, advertising, management, human resource, audits, merger acquisition, so on and so forth. Just to take a call of specific numbers, there are nearly 5,000 companies listed on the BSE. Now, if you multiply each company's very specific annual report data itself, you will find it's a very large chunk of data to analyze and come at any particular decision making in case somebody wants to get into investments or any technicalities of understanding the corporate running. And if you see the daily turnover, again, in the latest last year, it's something like couple of thousand crores, couple of lakh crores. I mean, that's number even I'm not able to even, say spell out in the realistic billion or trillion kind of thing at one go. And as Sangeeta Madam also specified, the digital medium is growing so rapidly. It is that just the advertising spend, by the companies have gone up substantially. And in 2021, it is expected that it will be like 375, billions of dollars. And a similar number, I'm sure, we can all, foresee even in the Indian digital space. So in that context, YouTube itself, we have 1,700 channels. I'm 100% sure that all of us haven't seen probably, I would say 10% of them. Not even 10%, at least for me personally, I don't think I have gone beyond 50, 55. If I see my subscribed list, again, even those 55, how many I see actually regularly, I can't put, my finger onto that. So the whole crux is, okay, information is there, I can't, or you can't, or none of us can really build a kind of turn back the tide. This is something which we have to live with that. So yes, I mean, some of the practical things which we have to do, which of course, Parvez ji pointed out. So to start with a very common thing, which is which we deal with number of times a day. Yes, the emails. The one thing which I suggest, to all my students, ours is a university, as you are aware. We tell them that you use only the official email account given by our university. This will automatically reduce the spam, at least straight away by 80-90%. And because you are using the official email account, you have the tools to kind of spam blocker. And we had, I mean, mind you, we had serious incidences of almost hacking when somebody had not initiated this precautions. Yeah, we had to actually individually go to the desk and then get them to use the official email account and enable the tools which were given to them. Another painful aspects is unsolicited promotional mails. Yeah, you go to one site sometimes and it there is a pop-up comes and in that they're very smart. They will give you allow such and such site to send you the update. The allow will be very bold and not now will be very, very light. So in a hurry, most of us will click on the darker shade, so that means that unsolicited promotional content keeps coming to you, whether you like it or not. So the something that generally we tell them, yes, you simply disable the send updates option going to the specific site, and yeah, you might do couple of times maybe in a week or maybe sometimes in a day if you are getting too many such unsolicited mails. Another aspect is that the mails itself, even if they are useful mails, unless you classify them in a sensible way, just like the way we classify our books, you will find it difficult to take a look at it if there is a particular issue coming up and you want to go through the entire correspondence, which can happen often, and hence it's better to create filters. Nowadays every email has got such filter system where you can gather the similar mails and create a folder so that automatically you are not looking at all the mails which are not related. And yes, I mean, both of you pointed out the screen pop-ups are one of the most irritating aspect, and it breaks your concentration, and especially from the e-commerce sites, because these are something which we use. I mean, it's not that we don't want to use, but we definitely do not want them to tell me that that the bhindi is coming now at 20 rupees a kg, kindly buy that. Yeah, not at the time when I'm presenting something or I'm preparing for my director's presentation. So yes, I mean, disabling this is something that has to be done in a very systematic way. Yeah. Scientific information is another challenge. Yeah. Fortunately, for scientific information, as Madam pointed out, the researchers, Shriparna also, made this very clear that the researchers find it, they love the information. They said, yes, we need information. But those who have done PhD, they know that the literature, the first chapter of literature survey is a major milestone if they do it successfully without stressing them out and without missing it out. Yeah, and hence the strategy that one has to use are few things which we have listed what we actually practice. Although nowadays full text search is very common, I still suggest to my researchers that better to use a controlled vocabulary when you are searching something very specific. Yeah, that it's not all across the space. Now I have been working since more than 3.5 decades. So I started working when we had a physical sources like MASH, chemical abstract. We have indices, 7-8 indices, and we'll learn ourselves, and then we'll teach the researchers as to how to make use of those indices so that you see exactly what you want. A similar system we need to evolve also. Electronically it's already available, but we need to make sure that we activate it. So it's like, for example, thesaurus, subject lists. The whole intention is to take out something you do not want. Yeah, the gray areas become very clear, black and white, and that is what it means. Now so far we have been talking about we as a consumers of information, something that we are consuming. But we all as a librarians, we also play the role of content creation, whether it's a PhD, thesis, MTech thesis, project reports, research reports, and we add to our repositories. We all have institutional repositories. So the precise indexing at source is also a great, I would say, a social service that we should be doing it. Because if your indexing is precise, as per something that I just now explained, the pickup at the search point will be far less painful, far more precise, and the usage of the content itself will be much more better. Next point is, yes, we do teach, how to set alerts, RSS to our researchers. We have orientation session and we have training programs from time to time. And first thing we tell them that you go to IEEE, say go to ACM, go to Springer Nature. And how do you, set the alerts? You do the search, save the search, how they love it. But at the same time, we also tell them that, look, you have been working on this for 7, 8, 9 months. Check it out, whether something that you have been getting is it really relevant? So go back, review and update the alerts and RSS feeds. And yes, intelligent aggregators, we have so many of them, Discovery, and then, RX, of course, we have, it is our own product, RX, which helps you cut down your effort of choosing the right contents, from the, like Akhtar sir said about, like drinking the water from the water hydrant, most of it will go waste. But here, these aggregators will make sure that your time is well utilized, and then in fact, there is a lot of AI enabled, because it quote unquote reads your reading pattern and knows, that what you do not want to read. So in the next feed, what it gives you is far more relevant than your first or the previous feeds. Okay. Again, coming back to our own role, we have a budget, for example, for annual budgets. So again, here we have to analyze the information in a way that so much of content we are subscribing to. How do we know, that the usage is as per our knowledge, as per our expectation? And that's where, again, this tool, I would say that using, and the usage statistics, making use of denial data, books, journals, these things also help us, have a strategy for picking up the scientific information or any information for that matter, which our library should have or should not have. In this way, you are able to optimize your budget without causing any shortfall or depriving at our user set. Social media, has become a buzzword in the last couple of years, and more so during the last 2-3 years. I would say there is applying a rule of exclusivity of medium. This is again from the content creator point of view. Now, for example, see, we have a website. We also recently, started the Instagram page, because we realized that, students are not, we are still not allowing the students to come to the campus, but they are interested in knowing what's happening, what kind of information they can access, what kind of things they will, they would like to know. And we felt that we need to actually remove the medium which they are not using, and number one, or make sure that whatever information we are sharing on each of the medium is exclusive. There is no repetition. For example, if I have a Facebook page, I would not have the same information replicated on Instagram. So, rule of exclusivity. And yes, if the information is so important that you would like to replicate, for example, there's admission information, or something to do with the campus reopening, yes, I would replicate everywhere. So selective information replication is another filter, strategy that I would like to make use of it. And the content that you put, we have to have two parts, looking into. One is the purpose. What is the purpose? Is the purpose to update, inform, instruct, and for whom the content is meant for, and accordingly you choose the medium. So is it for faculty? Is it for students? Is it for a senior management? Because a social media has a peculiar reach, yeah, peculiar liking, affinity. And as a user, yeah, continuous purging of older information is equally important, and also as a content creator, so that we somebody who is using your medium, the information is not overwhelming or something which they feel that this is it's not really adding value to me. So that purging is something we can start cleaning up, just the way we clean up our house. Yeah, we remove the contents which you don't want.
Manish sir, sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah,
If you can like wind up.
yeah, it's my last slide.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. And if you want to know whether users are really getting benefited, yeah, unless we have a pulse on their liking, the content or the information that we are sharing may not be very relevant. And hence the user survey, periodic user survey, maybe once in 6 months or quarterly, depending on the size of your studentship, can make huge difference. Yeah. So yes, thanks all of you for listening me out and sharing my thoughts. And yes, as my slide says, less is more. I suppose that is what we need to live for. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Manish sir, for your information and how the alert creation can help us from getting the information overload and the importance of budget allocation in terms of as a library profession and how some of the tools like racks are helping in this kind of situation. So it is actually great to know about all the things that you have mentioned to us. And as you said, digging into the deep and how the information is doubling, like in 2020 it was 13 hours. So knowing all of these interesting facts are really very great. So now moving ahead, thank you so much once again.
Thank you.
Moving ahead, now I would like to invite Dr. Sanjay Kataria sir. He's our next panelist with more than 2 decades of rich and fulfilling work experience. Dr. Sanjay Kataria is presently working as university librarian at Bennett University since August 2016. Prior to Bennett University, he had served at JP Institute of Information Technology, Noida, and Banastali University, Rajasthan. Dr. Kataria has contributed about 35 research papers in reputed journals, international conferences, and has also written and edited more than 10 books and many of the conference proceedings. Dr. Kataria is on board for several prestigious national and international journals as editor and member. He conceptualized ETTLIS, that is International Symposium on Emerging Trends and Technologies in Libraries, an international platform for sharing global best practice for librarianship, which was held for the first time in 2008, and then it is consequently done in 2010, 2012, 2015, and 2018. He is a recipient of several international fellowships and awards, including Commonwealth Professional Fellowship in 2012 at Midlex University London and 2017 University of East London, UK. Um, he has been awarded with National Best Young Librarian Award in 2009, Satkal Young Librarian Award in 2012. Recently, he was honored by Madhya Pradesh Library Association for the University Library of the Year 2019 Award of his professional and scholarly contribution globally. So, without much ado, Kataria sir, I would like to invite you to give your views on our today's topic. Uh, Hello.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sperna.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Good evening, dear one and all. It is my pleasure to share my experience on this important platform and the topic, which is very close to my heart. And let me acknowledge my gratitude to the organizer of this conference, especially Mr. Kailash Bilani the CMD at Bilani Infotech Limited, and Dr. Sperna, and entire team of Bilani Infotech Limited for initiating webinar on information e-resources with experts. This is known as WIRE. Thank you so much for invitation and opportunity to share my thoughts. And today the topic is, as I said, that is very important and important, but not much to remain for the last speaker that to say, because everything I don't want to kill your time and a kind of duplication. I think I need to discuss and but this is a really challenging and threat, and we as a librarian we must understand our role and responsibility. So we are living in a digital age, and everyone is as capable and having a capacity to generate and to share the content, the information overload is nothing but kind of having too much information, and this kind of too much information is creating a confusion, what said by other speakers, creating a confusion and having impact on delaying in decision making and low productivity. Or I must say that information overload is considered as a threat to the society, like global warming. And I found a few very important statistics. There is I got on that just visited on a website as a Forbes, and there is some data is available on internet and social media. And if you go through the social media, this data, they said that about 3.7 million human use that no internet. That's growth rate of 7.5% of 2016. On this average, Google now process more than 40,000 searches every second and 3.5 billion searches in per day. And 77% searches are conducted on Google. Now you can look at, there's many other search engines are there. And worldwide, there is a 5 billion searches in a day. If you look at an utilization of the social media, though we are talking about information load, there is a very interesting report is available, that is in Data Never Sleep. Data Never Sleep 5.0. This is a report. And this report says that the Snapchat the users share 5.27 lakhs of photos, and more than 120 professional joins LinkedIn every minutes. And every users watch 41.46 lakhs YouTube in a minute globally, and 4.56 lakhs tweet are sent on the Twitters in a minute. And Instagram is also having a very interesting data. So 1.5 billion people are active on the Facebook daily, and Europe has a more than 307 million people on a Facebook, and there are 5 new Facebook profile created in every second. More than 300 billion photographs are uploaded per day, and every minute there are 5 lakhs 10,000 comments posted, and 2 lakhs 93,000 updated on the Facebook, even though the Facebook is the largest social media networks. If we talk about the Instagram, there is about 600 millions Instagrammer is there, and out of that 400 Instagrammer is very active in a daily basis. And every day 95 million photographs and videos are shared on the Instagrams. Now you can imagine the kind of information created, generated. We're talking about Sangeeta is an information pollution. If talk about the scientific publications, I got another data, another data from that National Science Foundation, the report published in 2008. They said that India has emerged as the world third largest publisher of science and engineering articles. Top is in China with the 20.67% of publication, globally publication, and followed by the United Nations, US, and then India. So if you look at an overall, that kind of amount of information, the scholarly communication, or otherwise kind of data, so this is really complex information world, and finding an information what said by other speaker is really tedious job. And now there is a great role for the librarians to play. If you look at an library point of view, or if even though not library point of view, look at your personal, if you observe your personal activities starting from early morning to late evening, how much time, how much amount of time we are spending over that, internet, or using desktop, laptop, or our mobiles. And even most of we have our 5 to 10 WhatsApp groups. And I'm sometimes very irritating that one person is all is also member of all groups, and circulating a similar kind of information, duplication of the information, and really getting irritated, and spending a lot of time to delete that information from your lap this your mobiles. So during this pandemic, a lot of fake information also circulated, said by other speakers, and that people is let time have a heavy discussion on that WhatsApp, and kind of argument and WhatsApp groups, and leading teasing, and negating each others. So in that kind of scenario, there is a really tough time for that personally and the professionally, to get the right information from I must say that sea of flood of information. And therefore, what Dr. Akhtar said, that self-discipline, or I must say the time management, we should have to have a proper time management, and we should decide that how much time we are going to spend, on that internet, especially checking the social medias, and using the WhatsApp. We are hardly has a time to peaceful time to get study and do some serious work. When I'm going to do some serious work, I have to switch off my internet from my laptop mobile, then after I'm going to start my work. So this kind of situation is there. And what said by other speaker, that identification of information sources, that is an information literacy, and person should have to have a competent and capable to get any information from different sources of databases, of that the journals or the books. And we must cautious about when we are communicating and sharing the information, because the information when you are going to share, that should be useful for others. Otherwise we are killing our time, and also not caring of others. So these are things, but there is not much to say at the end, but what I just I was to carefully listening both speakers, started with Pravez Akhtar sir. He said about the organization of information, discovery, implementation of discovery, integration of resources, and linking of information resources in the data set and all. And what Sangeeta is also emphasized on authenticity of the information and analysis of the information. And he said that employees spending one day, out in 1 day for searching an information in a week. This is a big deal. That what I mean to say, that whatever said by the speaker, I'm going to share my screen, and I want to show you as a librarian how you people can manage and save the time of your users and energy, because information load is nothing kind of having a kind of complexity, and where the user is unable to get information and spending a lot of time and energy for getting an information. Just allow me to share my screen and show what said by the speakers, practically how we people are managing at Bennett University. Because talking and giving example of other universities is easy, but showing how we people are managing all those things here at Bennett. Uh, said by Dr. Akhtar, that organization of the information. So every librarian must have to have a kind of dynamic library portal, where that A to Z information about the library should be available. Whether it's in about resources, guidelines, rules, regulation, about the services, or that kind of day-to-day update and notices, or these are the information are available. You can see all information are linked here. You can see the school-wise, department-wise, all resources we have linked. So these are the things are required to save the time of the users, and even video tutorial is available, and which can guide our users how to make use of these things. And during this pandemic, our whole resources are available and accessible at the doorstep of the users. And everyone is talking about, Sangeeta is talk about this library guide, and subject portal and the resources. Sangeeta, you can look at our subject portal at Bennett. What we have done as a school wise, we have, because you people are talking about that how we can help us to users, and how we can save their time and energy, and how best the library can organize. But you look at the practically how best we are organizing, and the library users, even faculty in the research scholar at Bennett, not even required to go through the different sources and the databases. What we have done, we have repackaged the information as per their profile, faculty profile. If you look at the faculty profile, all the faculties profile are there. What we have done here, we have mapped the library resources with the faculty profile as well as with the research domain. Look at this professor is working in operational, teaching in operation management. Just click here. He can suggest any users that these are the books available in library on the operation management, and these are available and they can make use. In a similar way, the this same professors say working on that project management, behavioral dynamics and all. This is the research interest of this faculty. They can click, and Sangeeta is talking about ranking of resources. Sangeeta, now you can look at here. The what we have done, that we have extracted the data from different sources and behavioral sciences, and we have ranked the data based on the citations. So the whenever faculty is going to do going to do some research, they can make use of these resources and they can utilize these sources in the research. So there is no need to go here and there, and all the top cited paper on behavioral sciences. You can look at here the papers and the citation is there, and they look at the top journals available on behavioral sciences. That is also listed here. They can get published of the research, even though top authors are there who's producing more research in that in behavioral sciences, in the top organization who's producing more research in behavioral sciences globally, and the top country, something like that. That idea is just to help and support our fraternity, how best they can utilize our resources available at within the library or the outside. So that was an idea basically. And a part of this mapping the faculty profile here, because I don't want to show the this what is a PPT and talk about theoretical thing. So in that way, you look at the ebooks is available in my university or the print books. Again, we have mapped here, given all the information of books available on the project management, operation management and all. They can see here. And then after, you can see the online resources, what we have subscribed at Bennett University, they are available here. They can see what kind of resources are available so that they can make use of it without going here and there. And what we have done here, we also have collected the information about the open access resources available on particular area, and we have given somebody is talking about linking of resources, so we have linked all the resources over here. And what we have done here, the videos available and created by NTPL or some other organization, what we have mapped the all given our link of the videos on the particular subject. So in case some students willing to explore more in detail, that they can refer those resources. So this is the one example what I would like to show here. Secondly, you people talk about the discovery and integration of the resources. This is then one single portal at Bennett University. What we have done, this is basically federated search engine, and all the library resources are indexed here by discipline, by publisher wise and format wise. So the faculty, in case someone is interested in particular resources, they can click and use, or they can use the search box here. Okay. And a part of all these, there is a lot of other resources are indexed. So this was basically idea. Yes, and you can see say biotechnology. Here you can see that again, you can see that resources by publisher wise. Here you can see whether subscribed or the open access resources. All that things are there. So idea is just to say, because nothing to show talk about theoretical. I just thought whatever the said by other speaker, why not to show practically how best librarian can utilize and all these resources, and how they can promote the resources, and how they can avoid kind of information load in their institutions. This is basically idea. And all the literature talking about PhD. Manish sir is also said about PhD. So Manish sir, that whenever PhD school student are, going to join Bennett University, what we are taking there again, research interest, and based on the research interest, along with the 10 keywords, we are giving this top 500 paper on their interest area based on that citation, so that they will not go here and there, and they can directly can start working on the research area. This is basically idea. So I believe that I was carefully listening and noting what speaker said, but what I shown there practically, probably everything is covered. Now floor is open for discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sanjay sir. It's so good to see about the Bennett University Library portal, and I have first time seen the kind of thing that you have integrated with the PhD students portal and their research interest. Because faculty's research interest are being connected at many places, but for the library student, for the PhD students, it is for me it's for the first time. So a great effort done by the Bennett University Library Portal. And congratulations to you for creating such a great portal for your university. So, and yes, it was more of the practical thing that we were looking about. The crisp gist of all of the speakers that have talked, that we have seen practically how Bennett University has actually done it. So yes, right now we are open for the question and answer section with our panelist, keynote speaker, and the guest speaker. So our participants can ask their questions. I would like to ask my technical team to open the chat box for our participants so that they can have the questions with our panelists and our speakers. And thank you so much once again to take out your time for your busy schedules. I know right now how all of the librarians and information people are busy because of the renewal process and everything that is being going on. Still, you all have given us time. So thank you very much. So now we will be taking some of the questions if our participants have something to ask. Let's wait for a few more minutes for them. So I guess our speakers have explained all the things so well that they don't have much of the questions to ask from. Yeah, everybody is appreciating us for the fruitful and informative session. So after this, we will be moving to our quiz section where our technical team will be sharing the quiz link. And if our panelists and they all want to stay, they can stay, or else we are officially closed with this session. And right now we will be opening the session for our participants with their question and answer section with the quiz. So my technical team will be sharing the link for the quiz, and if any of our guest speaker or keynotes ma'am, Sangeeta ma'am, sir, if any of you want to leave, then you people can leave now. We have officially closed this session, and thank you so much for giving time. We are looking forward for many of the associations with you all in future.
Thank you, Dr. Prerna, and thank you, Blanin, for this opportunity. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I think it was a good session.
Thank you so much,
And,
Manish sir, for your inputs.
yeah, bye.
Yeah, bye-bye. Thank you so much.